LEIGHTDICKEY.com.
Do you have an event or occasion coming up that could use a special touch? Perhaps a wedding, a production, a show? Good! Then you're in luck. Hayley Moores is who you're looking for. Hayley is a makeup artist in the Toronto, Ontario area, specializing in bridal, glam, natural, and special effects. She's incredibly talented, professional, easy to work with, and has a personality that is second to none. To book Hayley Moores today, follow her on Instagram at mad_milash, that's MAD_MILASH, or email her at madmilash, again that's MADMILASH @gmail.com. Book Hayley Moores today, you'll be glad you did.
LEIGHTDICKEY.com. LEIGHTDICKEY.com.
Do you find yourself reminiscing on what life was like when you were younger? Do your favorite songs, movies, and TV shows instantly take you back to a simpler time? Great! Then you're in the right place. Join me, Leigh Dickey, on my new web series and podcast, Yo Nostalgia, where I cover everything you grew up with. From films and toys to fads and trends, Yo Nostalgia has it all. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever podcasts are available. Follow along on social media at Yo Nostalgia Show to keep up on this time-traveling trip. Yo Nostalgia, breathing new life into your memories, available everywhere now.
LEIGHTDICKEY.com. LEIGHTDICKEY.com.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Leigh Dickey here. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. Today, this week, I tell you where I came up with the name Beats and Speaks as the name for this podcast. But before we get into the story behind the name of this podcast, the Beats and Speaks podcast, I'm going to tell you where you can find the Beats and Speaks podcast. Of course, new episodes of the Beats and Speaks podcast are released every single Friday on my official website, LEIGHTDICKEY.com, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and wherever podcasts are available. Please do comment, like, share, and subscribe. We're on YouTube as well under Leigh Dickey TV. Leave a review and rate us 5 stars if you would, please, and thank you. If you want to get in touch with me or the show, follow along on social media at Leigh T. Dickey or email me, LeighTDickey@gmail.com. That's to get in touch and possibly be a guest on a future episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. All right, now that all that housekeeping is out of the way, let's get into why I named the Beats and Speaks podcast the Beats and Speaks podcast right here on the Beats and Speaks podcast right now. All right, well, yes, the name Beats and Speaks for the Beats and Speaks podcast. Why did I call the Beats and Speaks podcast the Beats and Speaks podcast? Let's get right into that. The story behind that starts mainly when I was in college. I was a radio broadcasting major, and I've worked in radio, television, and all things media most of my adult life. So the idea behind the Beats and Speaks name was that I didn't just want something that sounded super generic. I didn't want to call it the Leigh Dickey Show, because that's just too easy, right? I mean, I introduced myself off the top anyway in the lead-in or the tease, if you will. Hey, this is Leigh Dickey. Welcome to the Beats and Speaks podcast. You already know my name. I didn't want to put that in the show because that'd just be too easy, and I don't want that. Like, just, yay, the Leigh Dickey Show. Simple enough. On to the next. No, thank you. I didn't want that. So, Beats and Speaks comes from the original idea, the original germ, I guess you could say, for the show, was that when I was getting back into podcasting, because I did take a considerable break, maybe about a year and a half, something like that. And I wanted to get back into it because I missed it. And getting back into podcasting it was a way for me to tell stories and just talk. And that's what I love to do. I love to tell stories. I love to have conversation. I love to talk. The name, as I said, I didn't want to just call it the Leigh Dickey Show because that was too easy and it just sounds so super generic. I didn't want something that sounded like some generic talk show. I didn't want something that sounded like Maury, or The Jenny Jones Show, or Sarah Jesse Raphael, or Jerry Springer. I didn't want something with my name in the title of the show when I already introduced myself in the lead-in or the sting leading into the episode anyway. I didn't want that. So the name Beats and Speaks comes from the original germ, where it was going to be about music, and it also stems from like my time in media and entertainment as well, where I get to be a kind of a reporter, right? You know, where like you're on the beat, you're working the beat, right? Speaks, okay, that's pretty self-explanatory. I just get to talk. And I also wanted something that sounded like it rhymed, or that it just came at you. It kind of like didn't literally punch you in the face, but it was there and you knew it was there. So that was the idea behind the name, the Beats and Speaks. Hey, that sounds good. And I ran with it, you know, and to this day, it's still called the Beats and Speaks podcast. I love that. And the fact that I get to talk about everything on this show, which is initially what I wanted it to turn into, other than like a podcast about me. I wanted to talk about a bit of everything. I wanted this to turn into like this general interest, what it is now, basically a general interest, everyday life, everyday people, everyday stories, comedy, entertainment, audio joyride for everybody involved. And it's a lot of fun for me to do this show. So the name Beats and Speaks just comes from the fact that I didn't want to just put my name on the show. You know, whether or not people think that's egotistical or whatever, like there are, you know, major giant communications conglomerates within Canada and within Toronto specifically that have someone's name on the marquee or in the name of their company, right? Like, don't get me wrong, the company that this is run through, I've put my name on. Yes, it's Leigh-Dickey Media, but, you know, when it comes to the products and the content that I produce, I don't just want my name splashed everywhere. And that was the original idea behind the name of the Beats and Speaks podcast. Plus, I didn't want something that sounded like super generic, because I'm not a generic guy. I'm not just this, oh, hi, my name is Leigh-Dickey and welcome to my show. I didn't want that, because I remember when I was in college, my first on-air job, when it came to being on the radio, I took the stage name of King Leo, and I called my radio show, which was mostly a 1-hour show weekly. There were times when I could extend it, you know, so we did like 2, 3, 4-hour shows sometimes, because I really do love just getting on the air and having a conversation with listeners or with somebody in the room. Doesn't matter. I just love doing that sort of thing. And I took the name, the on-air moniker of King Leo, and I called my radio show in college The Lion's Den, because I figured, why not? Those two fit. King Leo, Lion, why not? Lion's Den, okay, because you're spending an hour, 2, 3, 4 hours a week with me at certain points. I've never just wanted something super bland, plain, generic, because obviously you can tell by listening to the show or even watching the videos or even those that have interacted with me, I'm not just some plain, ordinary, fly-by-night guy. I don't carry myself that way. I never have carried myself that way. And I don't want something that sounds so simple, because it's easy, right? And who wants to take the easy route? Don't get me wrong. It's always nice when things are a bit easier, but to just do things the easy way, that's no fun. That's no challenge. And that's pretty much where it came from. I've been a live performer probably since the age of 6. So we're going on 25 years now, because we're in 2020. I started in 1995, and I've had many stage names. I've done this for a long time, and I don't want to have this generic sounding, just simple, okay, I put no effort into the name, I put no effort into the stage name, I put no effort into a title, let's just slap this on paper and call it a day. I don't want that. So that's why the Beats and Speaks podcast is called the Beats and Speaks podcast, because it sounds like something, yes, okay, some people some of my guests have called it a tongue twister, and I suppose at times it can be, because when I first started doing the show, I'd get tripped up a little bit every now and again, but I just didn't want something where, like, here's the Leigh Dickey show, you know? Like, I always liked things where they sounded like The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon or The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. It was something else, and then you had the host name underneath. You know what I mean? Like Late Night with David Letterman. You know what you get what I'm saying? Or The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. It was something like that. It's whatever the name of the show is with that person. That's the idea. That's the nucleus, so to speak, behind the Beats and Speaks podcast and pretty much everything I do. Let's put a little effort into it, and then with whatever my name happens to be, obviously it's Leigh Dickey, but you know that. And I wanted something where it sounded like, yes, I'm on the marquee, but you're here for The Tonight Show. You're here for Late Night. You're here for The Late Late Show. You're here for, Conan with Conan O'Brien. Like, Grant, you understand the idea, right? Where it's, yes, my name is there, and yes, I'm the host of the show, but what's the name of the show? I want the name of the show to stand out. And to be honest, lately, people, they like the name of the show, and it's, I put in certain podcast groups that I belong to, and I've laid this out to, some of my former colleagues and friends and things like that, and people I've worked with. Hey, do you like the name? Is it good? What do you think? And people generally like the name of the Beats and Speaks podcast. They like the name Beats and Speaks. Yes, it can be considered a tongue twister. Yes, I've gotten tripped up at times when saying the name of my own show, but because I've done this show for 2.5, almost 3 years, you get used to doing things a certain way, right? I have a certain production flow, and I have a certain way that I talk, and I like things to be. So it's simple enough and it's easy enough for me to run through, okay, this is how I do a lead-in. Okay, this is how I do a show, right? And this is how I want to structure an episode. This is how I want to present it to you. And after doing this for 2.5, 3 years and having a background in radio, television, media, and performance and entertainment, I've become comfortable in my own skin. I've become comfortable in my own style. And that's what I bring to you every single week right here on the Beats and Speaks podcast, as well as anything else that I do on social media or through my YouTube channel or my website, Leigh Dickey TV and LEIGHTDICKEY.com, respectively. You know that what you get on camera or what you hear over the air on a microphone, whether I'm doing an interview, that's me. That's me. You know what I mean? I'm comfortable. I want people to be comfortable. I want them to open up to me. I want them to share their stories with me and with you. So that's basically the nucleus behind everything Leigh Dickey Media, everything LEIGHTDICKEY.com, Leigh Dickey TV, and the Beats and Speaks podcast. But I hope you guys enjoyed this little inside look and a behind-the-scenes sort of featurette on myself and why the Beats and Speaks podcast is called the Beats and Speaks podcast, and why it's sort of this everyday life, everyday stories, everyday people, comedy and entertainment audio joyride. Now, granted, at first it wasn't necessarily going to be the everything under the sun type of show, but I'm glad that it's morphed into a show that everybody listens to and that everybody likes and that people want to come on and that they want to leave reviews for and that they enjoy. I love the fact that people enjoy the topics that I talk about, the people that I have on the show, and they enjoy listening to me and whatever comes out of my mind and onto a microphone and at the end of the day on the air for you guys. So thank you all again for your continued support and for listening to this week's episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. Again, please comment, like, share, and subscribe. New episodes are released every single Friday on your favorite podcast app and player of choice, as well as my official website, LEIGHTDICKEY.com. We're on YouTube as well under Leigh Dickey TV. Please do rate us 5 stars and leave us a review. If you want to get in touch with me and the show, please do follow along on social media at LEIGHTDICKEY and send me an email to LEIGHTDICKEY@gmail.com. All right, I've been Leigh Dickey. This has been another episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. We will talk to you all next Friday for a brand new episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. I'm Leigh Dickey, and I'm signing off. We'll see you soon. Have a good one. Peace.
LEIGHTDICKEY.com